Hello and welcome to the International Championship. My last two seasons in the International Championship didn't really go that great. After having played many seasons in Grandmaster, I got relegated into Master and then immediately again I got relegated into Platinum, which of course I was not happy about. And with that, my goal for that season was of course to win my group in Platinum and as quickly as possible go back to Master. And today I want to show you the final and deciding game of the group, which will decide whether I will be able to win my group and go back to Master or whether I will stay in Platinum for another season. And as you can see, I am in the lead at the moment. The season so far has been going quite nice. I was out of the first 5 games, I was able to win 4 of them, finish second in a 3-player game. Then the 6th game didn't go ideally. I finished at the 3rd position in a 4-player game. It was quite close. Maybe I could have finished better, but I'm finished in the 3rd position. Nonetheless, I'm still in the lead with 25 points. However, only 1 point before Lech, who also had a strong season so far. And so whoever one of us finishes before the other in this last 4-player game at the end will win the group and move to Master. Also, the other two opponents in this game are discodancer, who is at 19 points. If he wins this game, I lose this game, and Lech finishes at the 3rd position. We have a 3-way tie, and who knows what then will happen. And maiquelPS, at this point for him, it's not going. He can't get relegated, but even if he wins, his position is basically locked in. But that wasn't, of course, clear for most parts of the game. All right. And maybe you remember Lech at the beginning of the year. I showed a season of the Intermezzo Championship, and there he was part. And I think already there we saw that he is capable of pulling out some strong performances and playing the game at a high level. And yeah, this season he has shown it again. And let's find out who at the end was able to win the group. I'm playing in the 1st position in this game, and first of all we can take a look at the leaders and wonders. And we can see that there's quite some lab synergy in H3. We have Sid Meier, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Marie Curie, and Einstein, so basically all of the lab and science leaders. We also have the space flight, the Manhattan Project, so yeah, that is definitely a very well represented strategy here. Then we also have Pierre, but no internet. We have Churchill for the military. In H2 we have the Ocean Liner service, but no Maria Theresa. We have James Cook, but no Suez Canal. We have Bach as a strong culture leader, Nobel as maybe a nice setup for a big science strategy, and then also Anthony Gaudi as a culture leader, James Watt to catch up some economy together with the railroad. We have 2 military action leaders with Napoleon and Catherine, also 2 military action leaders in H1 with Jan Žižka and Joan of Arc. Nostradamus and Barbarossa can help with the strength. We have Michelangelo, Saladin and Leonardo da Vinci. And then we have Universitas and Silk Road as some science wonders. We have the Great Wall, but no Meiji Castle, and Forbidden City, but no St. Peter's Basilica, and also the Machu Picchu is there. I'm in 1st position, and I decide to pick the Stonehenge here. It's regardless of whether I pick a wonder or a leader here, it's not guaranteed that I will be able to take a counterpart for 1 civil action at my next turn. Now if I take the Stonehenge, Alex will be discarded, and there is at least a chance that both Ashoka and Cleopatra will be taken. I was hoping that maybe there's a chance that one of those leaders could be available for me for 1 civil action. Ashoka in 1st position, not ideal, but I think I would still happily take him if he is available for 1. But there is the danger that none of those leaders will be available for 1, and maybe Hippocrates will stay on 2. But if I go for Alex, then there's also the chance that Stonehenge and Rome Roads might be taken away, and then I might not be able to take a wonder for 1 civil action. There could of course the library come out, but Colossus without the Suez Canal and the Colosseum, maybe not the greatest wonders to come out of the deck, and with that I just rather committed to the Stonehenge, hoping that maybe a leader will be available for me for 1 civil action, and if not, maybe grabbing Hippocrates for 2 could at the end also be fine, or maybe if Confucius or Boudica are revealed. maiquelPS just goes for Cleopatra, could have maybe also gone for Alex plus a yellow card with not knowing what wonder he will be getting. It's a bit of a risk, I think, but definitely also a solid pick. Lech actually just grabs the Rome Roads, a wonder that I think is quite strong in 4-player games. Also for him, maybe just grabbing Alex and 2 yellow cards. Rich land and urban growth is basically an equivalent to the engineering genius. I think also could have been a very fine pick, but the Rome Roads is just a very strong wonder, and there are some interesting leaders that could come out of the deck for him. him. That leaves discodancer actually with the option to take 4 cards as the 4th player. That's not something that you can do very often, but he maybe values Ashoka a bit higher than Alex, takes him instead of Alex, and is willing to miss out on 1 yellow card. And it might be the correct decision, I think, in last position, and with being able to take him together with the yellow card already, Ashoka is just very strong, and I think it's quite a strong first pick for discodancer. Now, sadly, that means that indeed Hippocrates will stay on 2, and there are some other leaders revealed. Sun Tzu is also available for 2, and also Confucius, but only for 3. Lech hasn't taken a leader yet, so if I make the decision to not commit to one, there is definitely the danger that maybe Confucius could be taken away if I maybe decide to wait for him, and I also could only spend my civil actions to take some of those yellow cards. So at the end I made the decision that I am willing to pay 2 civil actions for Hippocrates here. Maybe for going for Sun Tzu could also be fine with playing in first position, but there's no Suez Canal, so maybe going for a bit of colonization doesn't have a big payoff here. There is Jan Žižka, so Sun Tzu can be interesting, but here I rather went for Hippocrates, because with Saladin, Nostradamus, potentially also Joan of Arc and Jan Žižka, there are some interesting early replacements leader available, and so I went for Hippocrates, elected him to start collecting the additional tokens as quickly as possible, and then just build my mine. I draw the reds and the phalanx tactic. maiquelPS goes for Cleopatra, takes the library for 2 civil actions, which is a nice wonder to have with Cleopatra, and then interestingly he builds the mine. I thought maybe it could be nice to build a lab here using the resource from Cleo instead of getting the resource production, and then maybe at the next turn being able to build a mine and a step of the library. Then it's Lech's turn. Sun Tzu did fall down to 1 civil action. For him, he's not willing to pay an additional civil action for Confucius, which I think is a fine decision. The additional draws from Sun Tzu and the ability to decide which tactic will get upgraded certainly has quite some value to it. There's Jan Žižka in the game. The first copy of Knights, however, is already coming down the row, so let's see if that will be taken. Discodancer builds the second lab, elects Ashoka, and goes for the Colossus and the Engineering Genius, which is fine. Maybe just taking the Knights also could have been an idea, but with the Colossus he also makes sure to be a bit more safe, and so maybe it's fine to not take the first copy of Knights here. Here I actually made a decision to seed the reds into the deck. Maybe a little bit questionable, I don't have a free population, but if we take a look at my opponents, we can see that maiquelPS and discodancer also both don't have a free population, only Lech has one, so maybe hitting development of religion or warfare wouldn't be too bad. The thing is, I have already a tactic in hand, and I will take this first copy of Knights this turn. With Sun Tzu in the game, I think the Knights are just an extremely valuable technology, and with me having this tactic, I thought maybe I'm quite decent prepared for the military, then maybe it's in my interest to move the deck forward quickly. I will have knowledge about the reds and can maybe prepare for it. Nonetheless, with having no free population, it could have been also fine to maybe just pass on seeding here, but at the end I decided to start moving the deck forward. Sadly, I do get punished here, and the development of religion is revealed, so Lech now being the only player to take advantage of that, and I was not too happy to see it, but it was a risk that I was willing to take. Maybe I could have also just skipped seeding here. And then I increase my population, I take the Knights, and then there's the question if I maybe just want to build a second lab, or if I maybe take the Engineering Genius. Now with the development of religion being out, there's not really a lot of benefit into keeping a free population. And also I have the Stonehenge, so I will likely only be able to use the Engineering Genius one for 2 resources, which is still fine. I mean, you are quite happy to take something like the Engineering Genius A, so it could still be a fine pick, but a Stonehenge takes 4 civil actions. I just already invested 2 civil actions into the Knights, and it would cost me 1 science, which is maybe not that much needed with having the Stonehenge, but I don't have a science leader, so I still think getting the science production going quickly is nice, so I built a second lab here. I draw 2 cards, 2 more events, the Call to Arms and the Pestilence. maiquelPS builds a step of the library, increases population, builds the second lab, and the engineer takes the Engineering Genius. That's of course quite a nice card for him, so I could have considered taking it away from him, but it's a 4-player game, so I think that shouldn't be too much of a priority. We can see here that his decision to build a mine maybe didn't work that nicely. If he would have built a lab the turn before and now built a mine in the step, he would have been in this exact same situation, but he would have scored 1 science more, so yeah, that maybe didn't turn out to be the best decision. Lech cedes and opens the development of civil life. He can take the free religion and I think increases population with the development of civil life, and then also builds the second lab, takes the cultural heritage and the rich land, which is a bit expensive. He has a 4-step wonder with the Rome roads, but maybe just he didn't have a lot else to do and didn't want to start working the Rome roads and delay his lab. Discodancer builds the third mine, takes the swordsman in hand and also the bird and circuses. With that has the full Ashoka bonus going. Now it's my turn, and as you can see, I'm actually willing to reach out for alchemy here for 2 civil actions. And yeah, it's the question if it is worth doing. I have the Stonehenge, which will score me some additional science. Nonetheless, when I go for 1 alchemy upgrade, I get a bit of economy going. On the other hand, maybe there could have been the option to go for a bit of military relatively early. I could have maybe even considered going for Barbarossa. I soon will be able to get 2 activations. I have an early replacement for Hippocrates, and then I can maybe go for 1 phalanx tactic relatively quickly, putting a bit of pressure on my opponents. The thing is, I have no aggression in hand. The event deck is still, it maybe still takes some time until it will flip. And the other players, also Lech, who has Sansu, he doesn't have a free population at the moment, still needs to finish the Rome road, so at the moment he isn't really looking like he will be able to build up some strength very quickly. So at the end I thought maybe I can use the opportunity to get a little bit of economy going, and after that build the army, maybe so that I just have it in time and the event deck will be flipped. And so at the end I wasn't willing to go for Barbarossa. Also I seeded the reds at the turn before, so while I will maybe be able to go for Barbarossa and get 2 activations, the reds will maybe cause that I then wouldn't be able to get another activation because I might lose my food. So with that I didn't like Barbarossa too much, and with going for the alchemy there is at least also a chance that I can go for Leonardo at the next turn and get a very strong economical setup. There's also Jan Žižka coming down the row, which I was a little bit worried about, but grabbing him for 3 I think would be too expensive. It could be considered, I think, because I have the knights in this interesting phalanx tactics, so taking him for 3 I think could also be an option here. At the end I went with the economical play. Maybe I could have gone for Jan Žižka, maybe for Barbarossa. I think there are some different options here, but with my opponents not looking threatening and there still being some time left until the event deck will flip, I went for the economical play here. But maybe going for a bit more of an aggressive play and going into military directly also could be very fine here. I keep the call to arms and the tactic, draw the new deposits and the inhabited territory. maiquelPS finishes the library this turn, has now already 3 science production, so that's very fine I think, and he takes the second copy of knights. Lech cedes and opens the development of settlement. He will actually go for Barbarossa, makes the decision against Jan Žižka, builds 2 steps of the Rome roads, and interestingly builds a 3rd farm using the rich land that he took before. Thanks to the development of settlement, he had a free population to do it, and with the additional food that he will be accumulating, he might be able to go for a bunch of Barbarossa activations. Hopefully there will be a nice timing of reds that might be, then potentially disrupt him a little bit. But he didn't go for Jan Žižka, but Barbarossa is of course a leader that really generates a lot of value with those activations and also allows you to build a lot of military. Discodancer cedes, the development of markets are revealed. He makes the decision to take additional resources, can finish the Colossus, then would have been also be able to finish it without a resource if he would have used the engineering genius. And but he doesn't use it now because that would have caused corruption. Maybe could have skipped the urban growth and increased his population an additional time. But then he also would have missed out on 1 food because the Ashoka bonus wouldn't have been activated fully again. Now it's my turn, and there are some interesting leaders available for me. There's Leonardo available for 1 civil action who could help me be building a really strong economy, but there's also Jan Žižka available, and with me having this tactic and him now being available for 2 civil actions and taking him not causing to delay an economical build-up, with now already having invested into the alchemy, I think it's worth it to go for Jan Žižka here, making sure that I am nicely prepared for potential strength events, have my 3rd military action. Going for Leonardo, of course, could also be fine, but here I was willing to pay the additional price for Jan Žižka, with maybe having the potential to go for a second 2 phalanx tactics even relatively quickly. I elect Jan Žižka, increase my population, and to get out of corruption I will build a warrior. Could have also maybe built a another upgrade to the alchemy, but then I could have some troubles to get all of the things done. Ideally, I would like to build some units now soon to really get a bunch of strength going, and I also still want to finish the Stonehenge, so I think going for this upgrade now could make it quite difficult, and also there might be quite some benefit in making sure to have 6 resources available, because if there is an development revealed, it gives some additional food, and the ones that are doing that are agriculture and trade routes, and of course planning potentially if one of those is part of the 3 events revealed. And then I can at the next turn go for the knights, build 2 of them, reveal the tactic, and really make a big jump in strength. Sadly, I don't have an aggression in hand, but maybe I still have a chance to draw one, and even if not, it might cause some awkward responses. It might just come at a perfect time when the event tick is about to flip, maybe preparing me to win some potential strength events, and so I wanted to leave myself with 6 resources for the next turn, which is why I also didn't want to build 1 step of the Stonehenge, which would have been maybe an efficient use of my civil action, but it also would make it that I don't have enough resource to build 2 knights, and I wanted to leave myself open for that option. And so instead I just grabbed the drama. There's Bach in the game, there's Godi in the game, not a lot of synergy in H3, but with Bach I think having a copy of drama can always be very fine, and so I was willing to take it here. I draw 2 cards, one of them actually being an aggression, so now maybe I can execute one if the others can't respond to my strength push. The development of planning is revealed, and as you can see, one of the options is the development of agriculture, so now I know that I have the option to build 2 knights at the next turn without destroying anything. maiquelPS goes for Joan of Arc, goes for the 3rd military action. That certainly might help him being a bit more safe. He starts building some knights and goes up to 5 strength. Now it's Lech's turn, he doesn't see it. I was a little bit relieved to see it, because if he sees it in discodancer as well, I might have been the weakest. And now he will go for Barbarossa, but as we can see, he didn't upgrade a medieval army tactic, instead revealed a legion tactic now. Will go for Barbarossa, finishes the Rome roads, takes the Great Wall and goes for 1 activation, going up to 2 strength, and then with the upgraded legion tactic, the Great Wall, and having Barbarossa to build some units, he might be in a nice position to build up some nice military. Discodancer takes the free warrior from the development of planning, goes for the swordsman, building more strength, going up to 6 strength already, reveals the legion tactic, going up to 8 strength, and then takes a copy of iron that he can maybe start going for at the next turn. And now it's my turn. I, with the development of agriculture being part of the development of planning, can go for 2 knights and reveal the tactic, and with that I was willing to seed a call to arms into the deck. The development of politics is revealed, giving me access to 3 more events. And then I take indeed the food from the development of agriculture, develop the knights, increase my population, build a knight, build another knight, reveal the tactic, going up to 12 strength. Now the other players have to see how nicely they can respond. For maiquelPS, the medieval army tactic will not be available to copy yet, so he needs to copy a tactic of his own, which he certainly might have, with the development of politics now also being revealed, but yeah, it's not maybe guaranteed. Lech also is only in 2 military actions, can't finish the Great Wall yet, so also has to be a bit careful, and discodancer probably can be fine with going for some upgrades, but my opponents might have to respond now, and maybe I have a chance of firing this aggression off at the next turn. After doing all of this, I have 2 civil actions left. I don't have enough resources to do anything, so I can't use any civil actions on building a step or something. So at the end I have to take 2 cards, and the cards that I think are best to take are the urban growth and the reserves. The urban growth just being a very nice card to go for the 2nd upgrade for cheaper, and the reserves also nice to have, because the Stonehenge will still take quite a bunch of resources, and I need to finish it soon. I hopefully will still have 2 turns left in H1, otherwise I might even lose the Stonehenge to the end of the age. But yeah, the reserves just making sure that I have a bit more resources going, and of course I can also play it for food if it maybe helps me getting another population out. maiquelPS Seeds, the first event from H1 is revealed, and it's the scientific breakthrough, so me going for the alchemy gives me a little bit of additional science here. maiquelPS will then increase his population, builds a knight, takes the cartography, takes the alchemy, develops the cartography, and he has his copy of heavy cavalry tactic that he went for normally with just going for 3 knights, and he is also at 12 strength now and a real contender to win potential strength events. Now it's Lech's turn. He has to be very careful now with two opponents having gone up to 12 strength. He takes a copy of Swordsman, develops it, goes for a Barbaros activation, another Barbaros activation going up to 9 strength. Then he takes the reserves, builds the Step of the Great Wall, and with that he makes sure that at the next turn he can play the reserves and finish the Great Wall, just having enough resources and civil actions to do it. Also with going up to 9 strength, he is looking relatively safe. He only would need one defense card to defend himself. Now it's discodancer's turn. He will start going for some iron upgrades, goes for Saladin, elects him, goes for an upgrade, goes for 2 upgrades to Swordsman, getting out of corruption, making sure to be safe. At my turn I could still try an aggression against Lech, but no, I think it's likely that he has a defense card to defend himself. Maybe he would then get hit by an aggression from maiquelPS, and maybe at this point it was not completely clear how the standings will be looking, but it was already clear that Lech might be a strong contender, so maybe it could be fine if maiquelPS then goes for an aggression against Lech. But at the end, with me at the moment being the strongest, maybe soon being overtaken by Lech, who can finish the Great Wall and going up to 13 strength, I at the end made the decision to rather seed and now use the chance to maybe win a strength event that is in the deck. But I made the decision to seed the new deposits here because while I have Jan Žižka and a very nice amount of strength now, Lech soon will be able to go up to 13 strength with finishing the Great Wall, even more if he goes for more upgrades. maiquelPS, if he goes for maybe a temple or maybe even an arena, can go up to 13 strength, could overtake me. And discodancer also as Bread and Circuses maybe can go for another unit, can use Saladin for strength. So I was actually thinking that I might not be the strongest any longer and maybe even the weakest potentially. And Lech maybe, who has the Great Wall, has good chances to be the strongest, and I didn't want to help him potentially with putting this border conflict into the deck. So I rather seeded the new deposits, which is maybe also not ideal because I don't know yet when I will be able to upgrade some mines, but I wanted to push while being the strongest and rather wanted to commit to this event than to the border conflict. The knowledge of the ancients are revealed, giving me some additional resources. The additional resources actually being a little bit annoying because I can't easily use the urban growth this turn without having corruption issues, but still could be useful to have, of course. This turn I go for the Code of Laws. I have gone for some early alchemy upgrades, the scientific breakthrough has been revealed, and I hopefully will still be able to finish the Stonehenge, and then the Code of Laws is just an amazing thing to invest into, and thanks to the additional science I hopefully should still be able to get into government form without any issues. Then I have 2 civil actions left, and now you can see that if I go for an upgrade to my labs with the urban growth, I have just 1 resource too much to get out of corruption. Also building 2 steps of the Stonehenge doesn't get me out of corruption, and so at the end I just made the decision to go for this upgrade without using the urban growth, which is a bit annoying because now the question is when will be the next time that I will be able to use the urban growth. Probably when I maybe at some point will build a happy face solution, but with getting a happy face from the Stonehenge, that might actually take quite a while, so I was not too happy about not being able to use the urban growth here immediately on this lab upgrade. And then with my last civil action, I build a step of the Stonehenge. I could also take a card, for example the Bread and Circuses. There's actually Pierre in the game, so having that as a happy face solution could be nice. Maybe could also allow myself to use the urban growth relatively quickly. Also getting additional strength might be helpful. I could also take the warfare to be better prepared for the Republic. The thing is, if I take an additional card, it gets more likely that the Stonehenge might potentially be discarded before my next turn, and now, of course, I make a bit of a commitment. I actually build a step, but I thought that it should be very, very likely if I don't take a card that I should have still another turn. Maybe it's also likely if I take a card. So maybe I could have just taken Bread and Circuses, for example. Especially when we take a look at Lech, it's very likely that he will just play reserves, finish the Great Wall. Actually, he doesn't need to play the reserves now, but still, 3 civil actions will likely go into finishing Great Wall, so he won't take a lot of cards. maiquelPS probably wants to go for an upgrade to something, won't take a lot of cards, so I think I felt safe enough to already commit this 1 step on to Stonehenge. And While I could take the Breton Circuses, for example, and then play the reserves at the next turn, finish the Stonehenge, that would mean that I would spend all of my civil actions to it. And if you remember, I actually put the rats here into the deck, meaning it could be quite nice at the next turn when I have accumulated 3 food again to actually increase my population. And now with already having built the first step, I can play the reserves, build 3 stages of the Stonehenge and increase my population to not lose my food to the rats. I draw some cards, the Fighting Band, the Open Borders Agreement, and the Colonization card. maiquelPS seeds, and the event revealed is the vast territory. I was willing to bid 5, but mainly to push the price a little bit. At the end, Lech is able to win it, but at least he has to pay a price. He is actually sending a whole army away. 2 warrior, 1 swordsman, goes down to 2 strength. It might be that he is actually a bit vulnerable, but during his turn we can actually see that he is able to rebuild his strength quite nicely, but for now he's quite weak. Has sent quite a price to win the vast territory, but with Barbarossa he can rebuild the units very cheaply, and so I think it's still a great deal for him. maiquelPS actually doesn't upgrade anything, instead builds an arena, which is maybe not ideal with Joan of Arc, but it still makes sure that he doesn't have an uprising issue at the next turn if the age should end, and also makes him stronger than me, potentially prepared to win some strength events. Lech finishes the Great Wall, can do that without playing the reserves, but with playing the reserves he actually has 2 resources, and with Barbarossa can actually go for building 2 warriors, rebuilding the Legion tactic, being at 10 strength now with the Great Wall, and being relatively safe. Only 1 defense card is needed to defend against maiquelPS. Nonetheless, for the moment is the weakest, but discodancer doesn't see it. He goes for an arena instead, goes for an upgrade to his mines, increases his population and takes the irrigation, adopts the better Legion tactic to go up to 12 strength, doing that now in H1 to not miss out on any H2 draws. Now it is my turn. I still didn't like it too much to see the border conflict, and instead I offered the Open Borders Agreement here to maiquelPS, because we both already have some military actions and at a similar amount of strength, so it felt like a good partner, while the others would profit more from the military action. This turn I still want to finish the Stonehenge, the happy face and a bit of culture production is definitely worth it, and of course also the science, which might make it quite nicely possible for me to maybe get into a government form, so I build the stages, play the reserves, finish the Stonehenge. With the last civil actions I could have done some different stuff. I could have maybe taken the monarchy and developed it, going up to 6 civil actions immediately. I could have taken the iron in hand to just have a copy of that, maybe taken a copy of Richland to more easily get into either the last copy of iron or into coal. But as I said at the turn before, there are actually the rats in the deck, and with that I made a decision that it's best to just increase my population, being 1 civil action ahead. That also might be valuable with at the next turn the first H2 cards being available, and also just making sure that I have an additional population and don't lose my food to the rats. That, however, means that a copy of iron will actually be discarded, meaning that the coal could be quite heavily contested, so I didn't feel too great about passing on the iron and now it being discarded, but I still at the end was willing to do it. It would be a late iron anyway, and maybe if I get a government form, have a lot of civil actions, it can be fine operating on a bit of a lower resource production for a little bit longer. I draw the Reign of Terror and Pact and an aggression. maiquelPS is actually going for an aggression against Lech. He uses 2 defense cards to defend himself, has now no cards in hand, but thanks to Barbarossa should be able to get enough strength to not be vulnerable after his turn. maiquelPS takes the iron in hand, but doesn't want to go for the iron first, instead starts with going for an alchemy upgrade that makes sure that he actually has enough science to get into Republic in case there should be an early Republic, and also generally getting the science first might be the right call. Lech this turn goes for Barbarossa activation, goes for the Code of Laws, which is a bit of a science investment, but the Rome roads have just switched to science production, and he has the cultural heritage in hand, will take the breakthrough, and with that maybe still has enough science to, without too much trouble, be able to get into an H2 government form. Also with 16 strength he makes sure to be the strongest, and now I'm actually the weakest, but discodancer doesn't see it. He actually has drawn an international trade agreement with his Colossus draw, and with that is able to very early get an additional resource production. Of course I was not happy to see that this pact is accepted already this early. Discodancer builds a swordsman, gets stronger, takes the Universitas, and if he doesn't go for the upgrade and instead builds the steps, he has just enough resources to finish the universities at the next turn, and I do think the additional science will be extremely helpful for him, with him also still needing to go into government form. Now it is my turn, and I make the decision to actually go for the monarchy here. The thing is, all of the players are still in despotism, and I at least have the code of laws already, so with the monarchy I will be in 6 civil actions, which I think is a fine amount to play it, and I also don't have knowledge about Dark Ages. Doesn't really look that much like it might be in the deck, but still it could be, and so I just felt a bit safer investing my science now, getting now a bit of a boost instead of it being very unclear whether I or one of my opponents will have the first shot at getting one of those government forms, and so I just went for the monarchy. Also, I didn't have too much to do with the civil action instead, because the rest of the turn after developing it I will use to just take the ocean liner service here. And then I could have maybe grabbed warfare or something, or build a step, but I wanted to leave myself open to get into coal, especially with the new deposits coming at the next event deck. Of course, it's a bit costly finishing the ocean liner service while being on bronze mines, but it's still very early, still very strong. I didn't want to leave this one available for my opponents and just was willing to take it here. Alternatively, maybe I could have considered going for James Watt, but with there being 2 players without a copy of coal and maiquelPS not having committed to iron yet, it just felt a little bit too dangerous for my liking, and also I just felt like the ocean liner service I don't want to miss out on. Then I draw some cards, actually the classic army tactic, which I was happy to see. Now I just need some riflemen and I will be able to go for a decent amount of strength. maiquelPS with is willing to replace Joan of Arc, with having an arena, maybe not the ideal leader anyway. Nobel will give him a very nice science boost. He can now go for an iron upgrade while still having enough science to go for any government form. Now it's Lech's turn, he will go for another Barbarossa activation, now actually being at 22 strength, having 2 times the upgraded Legion tactic, having the Great Wall, so he's really making nice use out of Barbarossa. He doesn't have any cards in hand at the moment, after maiquelPS went for this aggression and after he used the 2 military actions also at the turn before, but he isn't in any danger, but for now doesn't have any payoff cards. And then that also is enough already to get out of corruption, and actually will spend his whole 5 civil actions to just take some cards. He will first of all take James Watt in hand, and then the strategy. The strategy actually making him quite threatening. If he develops it, he's at 25 strength, he can go for some upgrades, even another Barbarossa activation. So if he gets lucky and draws a war early, things could get really dangerous here, but the good news is, at least for now, he doesn't have any cards in hand, so it depends a bit on luck whether he will be able to capitalize on that big strength that he's having at the moment. And James Watt, also an interesting pick. I think it's definitely understandable. He has the potential to give him a lot of value. Also a bit risky with not knowing whether he will get his first copy of coal or not. But still, I think it might be worth to take the risk, as if that succeeds, it just might be he might just get a lot of value going. Discodancer seeds and opens the call to arms. Sadly, that event didn't work out too nicely for me. I'm actually the weakest and we lose 2 civil actions. However, if we take a look at my draws, then maybe it did actually work out still quite nicely for me, because the 2 draws were actually 2 H2 defense cards, and those are giving me a bit more breathing room, because now I actually can defend against Lech without needing to increase my strength. Even if he got a bit lucky and drew an aggression, I would be able to defend, so I can now play it a bit more greedily without it actually being very greedy. So it's of course still hurtful losing the civil actions, but with those draws I think it was worth it at the end. Discodancer will finish the universitas this turn, going up to 4 science production. He doesn't use the masonry that he took at a turn before, but developing it would make it that he doesn't have enough science to go into a copy of Republic if one of those is still available at the next turn. Now it's my turn and I make maybe a bit of a questionable decision. I make the decision here to seed the Reign of Terror into the deck. And at the moment, of course, you can see that it really just looks like I might just get hit by that. There were maybe 3 reasons why I was willing to seed it. First of all, I wanted to reveal a specific event, and that is the reds. At the moment, I don't lose anything to the reds, while maiquelPS has 5 food accumulated, which is maybe hurtful for him to lose because he doesn't have any real food production. Lech would lose the ability to go for another Barbarossa activation for the moment, and for this discodancer it's not really that bad, but yeah, I still thought it could be nice to reveal the reds now. Then I thought that for now I'm the weakest, but as soon as I get a copy of Rifleman, and I will also take this copy of Patriotism, I might actually have a chance to make sure to not be the weakest any longer, especially with having this classic army tactic in hand, so I thought there's a chance to get stronger. And even if I get hit by it at the end, with having this early ocean liner service, that I potentially might even also finish already the next turn, depending on what my options are, I thought that if I should at the end lose a population, it's still annoying, but maybe not too bad. And with that, I was actually willing to put that into the deck. Could still be a bit questionable, but I at the end thought it might be fine. And the reds are actually revealed, which is especially annoying for maiquelPS and Lech. This turn I built a step of the ocean liner service to get out of corruption, however I didn't build any more steps. First of all, to leave myself with 6 resources for a potential coal upgrade, and second of all, to leave myself open to maybe get into architecture and build the last 3 stages with 1 civil action. Then I have 3 civil actions left, and I think there are just some strong yellow cards that I want to take. The Patriotism will make it a lot easier to get into Classic Army. The Breakthrough is, despite my good science, is still a very efficient pick for 1 civil action. And then I still have 1 civil action left. I said I could build a Step of the Ocean Liner, but I didn't really want to do so, and instead I just picked this Organized Religion, getting a happy face solution for 1 civil action, which I certainly will need at some point. The team sports would maybe be preferable with Pierre being the game, but I don't know whether I will get it, and so I thought taking the Organized Religion for 1 civil action now should be fine. Then I keep some defense cards, the tactic and 1 event in hand. I draw the National Pride, Vast Territory, and the Promise of Military Protection. maiquelPS seats and a wealthy territory is revealed. I was not willing to bid on that, as it would leave myself a bit vulnerable to an aggression, and the resource would be quite nice, but I just didn't want to bid, and at the end maiquelPS is able to win it for just a warrior, which I think is quite strong for him. Gives him quite a boost in the resources. He can now go for the Republic, get a boost in the civil actions as well, takes the selective breeding and the railroad, and with that has all the necessary things to boost his economy, and with the 5 strength of the railroad also be relatively fine for the military. Now it's Lech's turn. He will go for James Watt, and he has quite a strong turn ahead of him. As you can see, sadly the first copy of coal dropped, which I was not happy to see. I was hoping that maybe I could get the first copy, or that the coals are a bit further down in the deck. But now Lech can actually go for the coal, but he can not only go for the coal, he can for the Republic, developing it with the Breakthrough, taking the coal, playing the cultural heritage, developing the coal, and going for 1 upgrade. And I think that is definitely quite a big boost to his position, now being at 8 civil actions and starting to go for some cool upgrades with James Watt. And thanks to having had Barbarossa and having the Great Wall, he is sitting at 22 strength, so despite his 2 military actions at the moment he's not in danger at all. At some point he will be able to go for strategy, and I was a bit worried on his position. He has the additional yellow tokens, he has the big strength, and now he will be able to build a big economy, so I was a bit worried on where this game is heading. At least he didn't find a space to take this first copy of cannons, which might be nice to have for him with having the Great Wall. Discodancer goes for irrigation, goes for some upgrades, takes the cannons. Now it is my turn. The second copy of coal is not available, and with that I made a decision to just finish the ocean line. If I take a copy of Ridgeland, I still will be able to go for a coal upgrade at the next turn if I want to. And with the Reign of Terror coming, just starting to get a population early might be quite nice. I increase my population. And then I have 3 civil actions left. I basically can only take some cards, but I also need to make a bit of space in my hand. And so at the end I made a decision to first of all definitely take this copy of Ridgeland. It's just extremely valuable for me. Now I have a full hand, and I thought the best way to make space in it is to just develop the Organized Religion. I have more than enough science. It's a technology that I at some point very likely will need anyway. And then with the remaining civil action I now took the Breakthrough, Again, I have a lot of science, but having even more might help me, for example, to get into an H3 government form at some point without any problems. And I still need Rifleman coal, so I think it's still a very nice card to get. However, doing the turn like this will mean that I don't go for Bach. I have the drama in hand, but maybe going for Bach is also a little bit greedy against a player with 22 strength that at some point will be able to go for the strategy. I mean, I'm still maybe a bit vulnerable, of course, if I at some point lose the Anshishka. I could have maybe taken Napoleon in hand instead of the breakthrough. I think I also considered it. But I was hoping that I will get a chance of getting the Rifleman and that then I don't need Napoleon that much. And taking Bach for 2 just would have been a bit annoying. I either would need to elect him, and then I could also take the rich land, or I would take him and then I can't go for the rich land. I would just develop the organized religion, and instead of both of those yellow cards I would go for Bach, and especially the rich land, but also the combined value of those cards I think is just quite high. And I should probably prioritize getting a coal upgrade, getting my economy up and running, and playing it too greedy could be quite heavily punished with how the strength situation is looking from my opponents, so I just didn't find a great way to implement Bach into this turn. And for Napoleon, I think him I considered more, but at the end I also wasn't willing to take him over a breakthrough and rather left myself open maybe for Antony Gaudi, maybe Catherine, but I mean the remaining leaders are not that great for me, so maybe just taking Napoleon could have been fine here and maybe could have made, I would have been a bit safer potentially. I keep all of my defense card, the promise of military protection and the classic army tactic. I draw some events. maiquelPS offers the scientific cooperation to discodancer. I was not happy to see it. Now both of them actually have the trade agreement and the scientific cooperation pact, so they are just definitely giving some benefits to them. maiquelPS will finish the railroad, develops the selective breeding for cheaper with the scientific cooperation, goes for a mine upgrade for now, and then takes an urban growth. Now it's Lech's turn, he seeds, the new deposits are revealed, maybe a bit too early, but on the other hand Lech now would have gone for more upgrades, but I think the resources will also now allow him to go for an additional upgrade this turn, so I maybe would have liked it to see this revealed after maybe being able to go for the first coal upgrade, but that was the risk that I took when I seeded it into the deck. Lech has a chance to get a selective breeding for 1 civil action, also takes the scientific method in hand, takes the cannons in hand, goes for 2 upgrades to coal, is now at 9 resource production, and also takes the team sports. That coal actually falls down to 1 civil action for discodancer, potentially could deny it, but he has something better to do. He will just finish the statue. At the moment not giving him any culture, but he has enough science to maybe go again to Conmon at the next turn if he has the chance. Now it is my turn. I am the weakest, the Reign of Terror is in the deck, and I don't want to push. However, what I actually did do here is offering the promise of military protection to Lech. I'm not sure if it is the right thing to do, but I get an additional culture production out of it, while Lech misses out an additional culture production. Lech is the strongest for now anyway. If he has a war and aggression, at the moment is at least quite costly for him to play, and if he has those, at least now he is incentivized to play them against the other opponents. Maybe also, of course, with a higher chance of success, which might be bad for me, especially with him being a contender. But with the additional culture production that I'm getting, I at the end was fine with offering this pact. It cancels the open borders agreement, but that pact will be lost soon anyway. So I was not totally certain if that is the correct move, but at least I'm just getting a bit of additional culture production from now on. Then I use the ocean liner service, and this turn I will first of all go for a coal upgrade using the rich land, and after that I will take the Rifleman in hand. I could already develop the Rifleman, play the patriotism and go for 2 upgrades, maybe really in the tactic, making sure to get stronger. But then I'm sitting at 5 resources and I would not have enough to go for another upgrade at the next turn, which is something that I didn't like too much, and instead I used my last 2 civil actions. I'm not sure if I did the right thing here, because maybe a nice way to use the last 2 civil actions would have been to actually take the wave of nationalism here. I mean, I already have the patriotism, but nonetheless I can maybe use the wave to build up some military. I still have the patriotism in hand, and some additional resource for the military might really be quite useful. Instead, what I did is to take the urban growth, which I also soon will need. I need to build this organized religion soon, so that gives me 3 resources, basically for 2 civil actions less, so it's a better ratio. And then I use this H1 copy of urban growth to build this religion. And the reason why I went for this turn, I think, is just because this urban growth is maybe more efficient. And second of all, it allows me to use this urban growth 1. There's maybe a small chance that the age will end, it should not be likely, but it gives me a chance to use this urban growth 1, and also I don't have knowledge about rebellion, I don't have knowledge about immigration. There's certainly a chance that this additional happy phase will maybe help me with the events, and now I have 2 happy phases, all the others do, so I would be part of an immigration and I would lose 2 civil actions less to rebellion, and so at the end that was the turn that I was willing to go with. I just keep all of the defense cards. My tactic, I draw even another defense card and a crime wave, maiquelPS seeds. And there is actually an emigration revealed, giving me an additional population immediately, so building the religion did something immediately. maiquelPS will then go for 2 food upgrades, for another mine upgrade, another lab upgrade, has now quite nicely upgraded civilization, takes the last copy of cannons and a copy of rifleman. Lech seeds and opens the strategic territory. Here I was actually willing to bid. I think I wasn't willing to bid more, I wasn't willing to bid all of my cards, but I thought if I'm able to win it somewhat cheaply, I'm willing to bid for it. Maybe I could have also kept the cards for a potential better colony, but I also can't that easily keep all of the cards in hand, and so at the end I was fine with winning it for just a warrior and a bunch of cards. I get 3 additional draws and get actually the defensive army tactic. It's nice to know that Lech doesn't have access to that, and the Ravages of Time and the historic territory are maybe not the ideal seeds, as the library and the Colossus are maybe easy targets to lose to the Ravages. Lech starts going for scientific method this turn, really starts a lot of science production, takes the revolutionary idea, the efficient upgrade and the wave of nationalism, putting his 8 civil actions to good use. Discodancer seeds and opens the developed territory. Now after already having won a colony and not having drawn new colonization cards, I didn't want to send another unit away and just passed on that. Discodancer is able to win it for 1 swordsman, at least he also has to send a card away. This turn he can go for the Conmon, develops it, takes Antony Gaudi, so sadly he won't be available for me. And then he goes for the cavalryman, develops the masonry interestingly, but it only costs him 1 science thanks to the scientific cooperation pact. He increases his population and then builds another cavalryman, revealing the conquistadors tactic and actually going up to 20 strength. And now it is my turn. I don't want to push. I know that the last event in the deck is actually the Reign of Terror. I got a bit lucky here because I was weakest for all the time. I didn't get hit by it, and that immigration was revealed. I got an additional population out of it, and now I actually have the potential to get stronger than some of my opponents, and maybe at the end I will actually be able to dodge this Reign of Terror with quite a bit of luck. So I don't see it. As you can see, I have now a lot of population with the immigration and another ocean liner service activation. And then this turn I play the patriotism, I go for the rifleman, I build 1, and instead of upgrading 1 I just build another 1 actually. It costs me a lot of resources, but when I take this efficient upgrade I can still maybe go for another coal upgrade potentially at the next turn, and it just makes it that I'm at 21 strength. Meaning that I'm stronger than maiquelPS, but also stronger than discodancer. If I only would have gone for an upgrade, I would have also been stronger than maiquelPS, but he can maybe get stronger this turn with building an arena, another unit, and then I would still potentially lose the Reign of Terror, but now I thought I should have a good chance of not losing the Reign of Terror, and especially if discodancer is the one who loses it, it's quite annoying for him. He doesn't have a free population. It would be a bit unfortunate for him, because I was for most times the weakest. So I reveal the classic army. Also this turn I have to make a decision about my leader. I can either go for James Cook this turn or for Catherine the next turn. And while Catherine is definitely the better leader for myself, unless there are a lot of colonies coming, James Cook just is available now while I still get the civil action back, and maybe I ideally want to replace my leader as quickly as possible anyway. And so, while I don't get an additional military action, I still was willing to go for James Cook just because of being able to spend a civil action now and also saving a total of 1 civil action with getting the civil action back when electing him. And at least he's giving me 2 culture production and maybe he could help me to win potentially another colony. I take the efficient upgrade, I take the architecture, and I also take the cavalryman to maybe just be prepared for some H3 tactics. I draw 2 cards, the fortifications and the prosperity. H3 starts now. maiquelPS goes for the architecture, develops it, builds the Britain circuses, increases its population, develops the rifleman, maybe plans on copying the classic army that I revealed at some point, or also maybe the conquistadors tactic that discodancer revealed, going up to 23 strength, takes the reserves. Lech seeds and opens the Reign of Terror, and discodancer indeed, being quite a bit unfortunate, has to destroy something now, and it easily could have hit me instead. At the end I do get lucky and that event actually turns out to be nice for me. Lech develops the selective breeding, plays the revolutionary idea, develops the strategy, goes up to 29 strength, goes for some upgrades, takes the revolutionary idea, goes for some upgrades to a swordsman, is now at 31 strength. It's looking a bit threatening, but for now he didn't play any aggressions or wars. Now it's discodancer's turn. He loses a lab to the Reign of Terror, takes the first copy of Air Forces, takes the scientific method, and with Anthony Gaudi can develop it for a bit cheaper and goes for an upgrade. Also, as you can maybe see, there's a very interesting combination coming down the row, and that is computers and Bill Gates, which I at my next turn might have the option to take with none of my opponents denying some of those cards. So that could be a very interesting option for my next turn, but after discodancer's turn is finished, we can maybe first of all take a quick look at the overview now that we are at the beginning of H3. And yeah, we can see that for the moment I actually still have a bit of a culture lead, and I'm at 30 culture, but overall the culture is relatively close. And I on one hand thought it could be a bit tricky with my position, especially I was worried about Lech's big production, his 8 civil actions, his strength lead that he's still having, and also he's only very slightly behind in culture. But I mean, there's no Bill Gates and computers coming down the row, which also might allow me to build up a very strong economy, and then maybe I can compete again. But I'm only at 6 civil actions, maybe I can go for an H3 government form at some point. I'm a bit behind in strength still. I don't have the most resource production, but with the help of Bill Gates I thought there might definitely be something possible. Nonetheless, I thought Lech might have the best position here, just being able to get a lot of value out of Barbarossa and James Watt, put him into a very strong position. The Great Wall is doing a lot of work, and he is just a very strong economy here, lots of civil actions, and I was worried that he might have the better position here. maiquelPS also a very solid economy, has 1 civil action less than Lech, has only 2 military actions, so has some weaknesses at the moment, but certainly is also in a nice position. Pierre would be a very strong leader for him. And discodancer potentially maybe with the worst position here, also only 6 civil actions as I do, not as many population as I have, not with the possibility to go for this Bill Gates. Has the first copy of Air Forces secured, so he's definitely not out of the running, but has maybe a slightly weaker position. Now it is my turn, and it's despite Bill Gates' computers of course being an extremely strong combination, it's still a bit of a tough call, because as you can see right behind Bill Gates there's the second copy of Air Forces already being revealed, and if I don't take it there's certainly a chance that I might miss out on it, and especially with having the classic army as a tactic, the Air Forces is just a good and also often much needed upgrade. Nonetheless, I felt like I maybe need to take a bit of risks to make sure to keep up with Lech, and so at the end, despite missing out on the second copy of Air Force already, I was willing to take computers, Bill Gates. I elect Bill Gates already. I think the 2 resource production are definitely worth more than the 2 culture production at the specific situation, and then with the last civil action I build a 3rd farm to not have any famine issues. At the next turn with computers and potentially architecture and those 2 yellow cards I can go for some very cheap upgrades to computers and then I have quite a strong economy going, but without Air Forces I might be a bit vulnerable to the military, which I was worried about. But I was willing to take the risk. I draw my first H3 cards, 2 impacts already. Impact of culture might be a bit difficult, but definitely possible. The others also don't have too much culture production for now, but they might maybe get a leader that gives them some culture production from H3. And impact of competition will just heavily depend on how much military I will build. Sadly, as you can see, the third copy of Air Force is also revealed very early. I was not happy to see it, because now if I expected both of those copies to be taken, and then it's very early clear that I will be the player without Air Forces, which is definitely not a good thing, but it also was a risk that I took. maiquelPS gets a copy of Military Theory. I also was not too happy to see it. It fixes one of his weaknesses. He's actually going up to 35 strength and is looking quite threatening now. Lech offers an international tourism to discodancer, also not something that I was happy to see, because discodancer has 3 wonders. Lech is getting now 3 additional culture production. It also makes it more difficult to maybe make use out of the impact of culture that I have in hand. He takes the last copy of Air Forces, at least has to pay 3 civil actions for it. Takes the revolutionary idea, goes for a 3rd farm upgrade, has now a lot of food production, and then will go for team sports to fix his happy faces and going up to 33 strength. Discodancer goes for the justice system. It's relatively cheap for him thanks to the scientific cooperation pack, goes up to 7 civil actions, and then he copies the classic army tactic, goes up to 23 strength, takes the urban growth, the efficient upgrade, and a revolutionary idea. Now it is my turn. I didn't really want to push any of those events, also I'm the weakest at the moment. Happy face related events could be quite painful, so I didn't want to push the deck forward at this point. And I think after having paid quite a big price to go for Bill Gates, I just have to get a production going. It's just should be the best, and also I can get it going very quickly so that it will net me resources basically immediately. I can go for computers. I also made a decision to go for the architecture, at least saving me 1 resource for each upgrade, and then with the 2 yellow cards I can go for those upgrades very cheaply, being at 8 plus 11 resource production, 6 plus 10 science production, so that's at least quite fine. Then I have 2 civil actions left. I first of all build a rifleman, and maybe, that makes sure that I'm not the weakest, and also it makes me a bit safer from an aggression, because this turn I didn't have a really nice way to make sure to be safe from an aggression from maiquelPS. Even if I, for example, don't go for architecture instead for satellites, I still couldn't defend for certain. But with going for this rifleman, keeping an H2 card in hand, I'm in a situation where if I have an H2 and an H3 defend card, I can defend. maiquelPS, if he wants to go for an aggression, might still choose me, because this discodancer had some additional draws from Colossus and 1 military action more. But I just felt I have to take some risks, otherwise I can't keep up with what Lech is doing, and so I was willing to play it a bit greedily, go for architecture computers, get those upgrades going cheaply, at least build this rifleman to make it look like maybe I have drawn this H3 card and can defend myself, but if I get hit by an aggression, that could be a very big setback here. Then I have 2 civil actions left, and there are 3 cards that I would like to take, or maybe even more. Actually, all of the cards for 1 civil actions could potentially be viable, maybe apart from the multimedia, but even that, of course, with my big production. But there's an urban growth, which is a very efficient way to get some resources, especially because I still need a happy face solution probably at the next turn, and then I can use those resources immediately. There's a copy of satellites, which is just a very cheap way to get a bit of additional strength, helps for some impacts. Maybe I can win another colony potentially. But there's also a copy of rockets, and with having missed out on Air Forces, it might be quite important to at least be able to threaten some H3 tactics that could play a big part on how I will be able to maybe make sure to not get hit by any wars. And then there's also a copy of democracy. I have now some good science production. I have monarchy, but I don't have enough science to go for it at the next turn, and maybe it's at this point just a bit too greedy. At the end, I made a decision to take the satellites and to take the urban growth. It was a tough call. I really consider taking the rockets here, but the thing is another copy of rockets is coming down the road. All of my opponents have secured a copy of cannons. Discodancers and classic army maybe doesn't have the best reasons to take the rockets. And I was just hoping that maybe I have another shot at getting the rockets. For now I don't know if I have an H3 tactic. Of course just threatening one can already be very important. But I also felt like the additional resource of the urban growth is just very much needed here. And the satellites, maybe I could have just taken the rockets, but the satellites can also just be a nice technology, prepares me better for some impacts, helps me a bit with the strength, and so I, at the end, was hoping that I get the rockets. If that would be the last copy, I probably would have taken the rockets. I keep the H2 defense card, the 2 impacts. I don't draw an H3 defense card. I was very much afraid of an aggression from maiquelPS here. But I was very relieved to see that there's no aggression. Instead, the developed territory, I just pass on that one. And maiquelPS wins it for knight, so definitely a good deal for him. He goes for the multimedia this turn, builds one, takes the civil service, the endowment, and the rockets. Lech cedes, and the freedom of movement is revealed. He goes for Einstein, elects him, is now at 11 science production, takes the democracy, the engineering, increases his population, actually used the freedom of movement to put a swordsman into scientific method, is rebuilding the swordsman now, so basically using a military action instead of a civil action to build the scientific method, and then plays the revolutionary idea and takes the modern infantry. Actually doesn't take any of those copies of reserves, but when you take a look at his production, maybe it's just not really needed that much. Discodancer is now going into a direction that worried me a little bit, because I mean, economy-wise he can't really keep up that much with all of us, and he is now going for Churchill for 3, and also with the freedom of movement usage he's putting a bronze mine into cavalryman. It's definitely looking like he might be building up to something, and that could be a bit worrying for me, with me being the player without air forces. He plays the revolutionary idea, uses Churchill, goes for the air forces, builds an air force, takes a copy of reserves. Now it is my turn. I still wasn't willing to push any event into the deck, as both of them are not looking too great for me at the moment. I used the ocean liner service to increase my population, and one part of how I want to defend myself here is definitely the Manhattan Project. That scores me a decent amount of culture, and also just is a nice way for me to get some strength now that I can't go for air forces. But yeah, I am also quite behind in strength, and if I don't increase my strength by quite a bunch, then I would be in danger of an aggression. Now I could just maybe use the urban growth, build this organized religion, go for some units, maybe also use the freedom of movement to help me building some units, and with that get stronger. But to compete in this game I also felt like I need some good impacts, and I wanted to get some draws, and with that I came to the conclusion that I want to take and finish the Manhattan Project immediately. But with that I need all of my resources, and that made it a bit difficult for me to find a good usage of the freedom of movement. But I think I've found still a somewhat nice usage, because I actually put a bronze mine into agriculture. At the next turn I would need another agriculture anyway, otherwise I would have a famine issue. And yeah, I might need to spend a civil action and 2 resources to build this farm. Now I just moved the bronze mine up there. I lose the resource production, but only 1, and I don't need a civil action to build this farm at the next turn. I already make sure to not have any famine issues, so I think that maybe it was still a fine usage of the freedom of movement, and with that I was fine of going for the Manhattan Project turn. So I take it, I finish it, and maybe I make a mistake here, because I maybe should have just taken military buildup and reserves, maximizing the amount of resources that I have available. But I instead thought, I mean, discodancer doesn't have enough science, or he actually does have enough science to go for military theory, but only if maiquelPS doesn't develop any tech with the scientific corporation, so likely he won't have enough science to go for the military theory, and then with only having 4 military actions, he's not looking that dangerous for now. And so I, instead of taking those resource yellows, rather wanted to take the rockets, maybe making myself a bit more threatening at one of the following turns, with potentially threatening to go for an H3 tactic. But the additional resource also could have been quite helpful, but then of course the last rocket is gone. Maybe I could not finish the Manhattan project, but that also has its issues again with me being in danger of an aggression. And so at the end I took the rockets and developed the satellites. That actually makes me also the strongest for now and could help me winning some colonies. So now the additional resource could have been maybe quite important if I at the end don't need the rockets or don't build them. Maybe having some additional resources could be more valuable. But I thought that maybe I can set myself up at the next turn, for example, threatening 2 modern army tactics. There's also still a chance that I might draw some of those tactics. I mean, I might need at least 1 resource yellow in order to achieve being able to go for 2 modern army tactics, but I only need 1 upgrade here, 2 upgrades here, and building 2 rockets, so that will take me 21 resources. I will have 20, so if I only maybe get 1 patriotism, I could achieve that in 2 turns to threaten it, and maybe that could be important. So at the end I took the rockets and developed the satellites instead of taking either military buildup or reserves. I draw 3 cards, and I was really hoping towards something, and at least the Impact of Harmony could be nice, also a defense card. Impact of Harmony also being very strong for Lech, which I didn't like. But at this point there was still 1 other 4-player game going on, the one where I finished 3rd, which was very close, so I didn't know exactly which placement I might need and whether finishing before Lech is the main priority or not, so it could still be a very important impact to have to maybe gain some points against discodancer and maiquelPS, because with my many population, if I just build a bunch of religions, I already can have a very big harmony. maiquelPS develops the civil service, takes the tanks, develops the tanks, takes the spaceflight, plays the endowment, takes the military buildup, saves up a lot of resources, making him relatively safe, taking the spaceflight, and just staying relatively safe, making sure to score some points at the end. Lech seeds, and now I finally get punished for having unhappy workers for that long. I just delayed building that organized religion for a long time now, and at least it's not a civil unrest that I think might have been even worse than the immigration. Lech goes for multimedia, builds 1, has now lots of science production, takes the fast food chains, increases population, builds another swordsman. It's maybe a bit vulnerable, has 13 resources, has the wave, but could maybe also be a bit vulnerable, but he could still have something like defensive army tactic. I know that he doesn't, but the others don't know. And here I sadly do get a bit surprised, as I said at my turn. Discodancer is maybe not really having the military actions to go for a war, but he has the military actions to go for a hybrid war, and he will go for professional sports to fix his happy face issues, going for an upgrade for 3 with the efficient upgrade, increasing his population 2 times, destroying a mine actually, at least it could hurt a potential harmony. I mean, at the moment the urban buildings are his limiting factor, and he will go up to 55 strength, not really a lot. I will be able to respond to that somewhat nicely, but it will force my actions, and that's of course still not great. Lech is at the moment running away, has taken a wonder. maiquelPS also has the space flight, and I will lose 2 population, have this hybrid war going on, and will be very forced in my actions. And now I actually start seeding. I thought I need to start taking a bit of a risk. Maybe there's a chance that I can still make my harmony similarly strong to Lech's, and still with seeding gain some points towards him, and hopefully it will be a good impact against maiquelPS and discodancer. However, only if I at my next turn will build some urban buildings, and the reason for discodancer to go for this war could also be to just force me to react, maybe so that I have to prioritize building as much strength as possible now, instead of prioritizing on how nicely I will be able to set up my strength for the next turn, so that then again he could hit me with a war the next turn. I definitely feared that that might be the case. He can declare a war, go for an air force at the next turn, and that might be quite threatening, but I just was hoping. I think the arms industry would give me 2 resources, and those 2 resources, if I remember correctly, would actually be quite helpful, would allow me to, I think, go for an upgrade from warriors to riflemen, and would actually allow me to win the war. So I just needed to take the risk, and the impact of harmony was the best impact that I could see it. The popularization of science is revealed, Lech gaining the most culture out of it. I am at least getting some culture against discodancer. I lose a bunch of population to the immigration, which definitely hurts a bit. I have a chance to get a military theory, I can develop it. I can go for building an organized religion, upgrading one, and then I can build 2 knights, and as you can see, with 2 more resources from a potential arms industry, I would have been able to go for an upgrade to rifleman here, getting more strength. Now at least I'm also at 53 strength. I will only lose 2 culture to discodancer, but I couldn't find a space to take those reserves with how I played the turn, and either I would have done less for this turn and just lost more culture now, but now I'm more vulnerable for the next turn. I didn't find a space to develop the cavalryman. I'm not threatening any H3 tactic, and for the next turn I can of course go for an upgrade, maybe build some more units, but I can't really go for that much strength, and I'm in big danger of a second war, and that might also be the reason why discodancer went for this not so big hybrid war, to just distract me and force my actions. I will get 3 draws. I was hoping for maybe a seedable impact. I do get the impact of industry, which is not that great. Lech and maiquelPS both have more in that one. maiquelPS seeds and opens the terrorism, so sadly now building will get destroyed, at least also for maiquelPS and Lech. But at this point I felt not so confident any longer, and I felt, especially if discodancer is a second war, that maybe I have to play even for 3rd place, with maiquelPS and Lech having some strong wonders. The other 4-player game at this point was still not finished, and so it was still unclear what exact position I might actually need in this game. maiquelPS goes for Steve Jobs, develops the computers, can again make use out of the scientific corporation, goes for an upgrade, plays the military build-up, goes for building a tank, going for some upgrades, being at 42 strength, goes for the shock troops tactic actually, is now at 45 strength, goes for another upgrade. At the next turn maybe can go for one more Nobel Prize with Steve Jobs activations, and has just enough resource to do this and finish the space flight. Lech plays the wave before he loses to the end of the age, goes for democracy, increases his population, actually goes for the modern infantry, not the cannons. With that he's not really prepared to go for any tactics that nicely, but maybe he felt that it should be strong enough. Even if discodancer should decide to go for a war against him, his big lead makes it almost impossible for discodancer to catch up on him, and I should be the better target, so he's maybe also banking on that. But with the upgraded legion tactic and having the Great Wall, just building 2 more modern infantries, maybe going for one upgrade, is already enough to give him almost plus 20 strength. Discodancer steals 2 culture from me. For now I have more culture than him, but sadly indeed goes for second war over culture, and with that it's indeed now just for me a question whether I can finish before discodancer or not. Discodancer goes for another arena, goes for the air forces, takes the fundamentalism. That could have been a nice technology for me to get some strength going, but it was also quite likely that it will be available for denial for discodancer. He takes it, the efficient upgrader movies, makes sure to anti-age. He doesn't have the greatest economy, and if he doesn't have another war especially, it just makes sense to anti-age, maybe hoping that he can finish before me. And now I had to make a decision for my politics phase. Either I can play for 3rd place, and if I would do this I would seed the impact of industry, which gives me a bit of points before discodancer, points for seeding, maybe the hope that an interesting event could be revealed that could help me, and then I would just play for 3rd place, but maybe there's a chance to play also still for the 2nd place. I don't think I can finish before Lech, and I mean, if he doesn't have a defense card, he actually can't defend against an aggression. The same is true for maiquelPS. And maybe I should just play the aggression against Lech and hope for something to maybe finish before him, but even if I hit him with this aggression, I still felt like his position might just be too good. The impact of harmony sadly being good for him, that I seeded, so at this point I didn't have a lot of hope left to finish before Lech, but what maybe could be possible, maybe also not likely, but maybe possible, is that if a blunder succeeds against maiquelPS, which is not likely, he can't finish the space flight, I will get some additional resources, can defend myself better, lose less culture to the war against discodancer, and then maybe with maiquelPS not finishing the spaceflight, maybe there's a chance that I could actually also finish before him. At the end I went for the aggression, maybe I could also just cede, hoping that maybe I get help from the events, but then maiquelPS can finish the spaceflight and I don't have any hopes for second place. But maybe even if maiquelPS can't finish the spaceflight, he can still get a Nobel Prize, 2 Steve Jobs activations, has maybe some good impact, so maybe the chances for second place are, even with a successful blunder, not that high anyway, so maybe I'm not sure if I should go for that. Maybe I should just cede here. So I go for the aggression and it fails, which was likely. And then this turn I will go for an upgrade to Rifleman, going up to 59 strength. I then also will take the Pro Sport, develop it, develop the rocket, scoring a Nobel Prize, building a professional sports for 4 additional strength, also building another urban building for the impact of harmony that is coming. And then with the last 3 resources, I could potentially just build another knight. Going for 2 additional strength, which is a 4 culture swing against discodancer. But it might be a bit telling for my opponents for what impact I might have ceded, but what is just better is to build this religion, because that gives me +4 for harmony and +1 culture reduction, and maybe it gives a hint that the impact of harmony is in there, but I still was just willing to go for that instead of going for building the knight, and I know that the impact of competition is not in the deck. And sadly the computer got destroyed from the terrorism. The event that is on top is actually a somewhat helpful event, so maybe maybe I should have actually ceded and could have maybe had a chance at this wealthy territory, so that maybe in hindsight should have been the better move. The opponents now do not bid that much, so with my cards and the satellites they could have had a real shot at winning that maybe for just a warrior, and then maybe being able to build some more stuff. Now, sadly, it's revealed after my turn, and at the end Lech is able to win it. For just a swordsman, maiquelPS will go for 2 technologies, finishes the spaceflight for 34 points, and then goes for the modern infantry. Lech cedes and opens the impact of technology, which is revealed a bit too early for him. It's 20 for me, 28 for maiquelPS. Lech would develop 2 technologies this turn, but now he's only getting +12 and discodancer +8, so at least I'm getting quite some points against discodancer here. Lech develops the engineering, develops the air forces, plays the patriotism, the reserves, builds an air force, builds another lab actually, and then finishes the fast food chains for 27 points. His multimedia got destroyed with the terrorism. Now discodancer will steal 14 culture from me, getting really close between us. Discodancer also gets an armed intervention against maiquelPS. He plays the reserves for food, increases his population, builds a lab, upgrades it, and then develops the movies and uses Churchill to score some culture. And then before the final impacts, we can see that Lech has quite a big lead. Maybe maiquelPS is still in range, but Lech should also be very nicely prepared for impact, so it should be very likely that he wins that one. maiquelPS lead against me in discodancer is definitely big enough, and then discodancer at the moment has a 10 culture lead against me. I will get a +3 Bill Gates bonus, sadly only +3 because the computers got destroyed with the terrorism. And but I have the impact of harmony, generally might have some other decent impact, so let's see which one of us will finish before the other. The first impact is impact of population, that might have been seeded by Lech, who gets +22 from it. I actually get +4 against both maiquelPS and discodancer, so it's a fine impact for me. Sadly with the immigration I lost potential points from here. The impact of harmony was seeded by me, it's only +12 for discodancer and +20 for me. So I overtake discodancer for now. The impact of happiness is the next impact, that gives me and discodancer each +16. Then we have the impact of government, +21 for Lech, +23 for maiquelPS, only +18 for me, but discodancer also doesn't have the most civil and military action, so he is also +18. For the moment I'm still in the lead before him at the 3rd position. And the last impact is actually impact of science, and despite having Bill Gates, I actually score 0 from that because of having lost one computer, and discodancer at his last turn went actually for a second lap. Maybe it was even him who seeded the impact of science just for the 5 points against me, or maybe he just hoped that that might be an impact that is in the deck. And with that impact of science, he's now in the lead again, but there's of course still the Bill Gates bonus coming, and with that it actually ends in a tie between me and discodancer. So we are sharing us the last position at the end, an outcome which we are probably both not too happy about. And at the end, Lech is able to win this game with quite a lead even. And with that, as you have seen in the standings at the beginning of the game, we will also take a look at the standings again. But with that, you know already that he has, of course, not only won the game, but also the league that we were in. And yeah, of course, big congratulations to him. I think he played a very strong game here. Going for Barbarossa, going for the third farm build, winning the vast territory, going for a lot of Barbarossa activations. He actually built 2 units with Barbarossa, or even 3, sent 3 away, had only 1 infantry unit, and then built 5 units again with Barbarossa. With having the Great Wall, that's just an enormous amount of value. The additional yellow tokens are definitely quite strong. Doing all of this came at the cost of maybe having not the best economy developed, but then he'd go and went for James Watt, helping him to fix that issue in a very efficient manner. And then with the Great Wall that gave him a lot of strength, he just was in quite a strong position, I would say. And going into H3 and with getting Bill Gates, I had some hopes that maybe I can also build up something strong, but especially then after missing out in the Air Force, was also very worried that I might get hit by something. And sadly, discodancer, who was a bit behind, decided that Wars is maybe the best shot for him not finishing last, which might definitely be true, and he managed to at least tie with me at the end. So I think it was a very reasonable choice by him, and sadly, with me being maybe worse prepared for such a strength push, I then was the victim. Yeah, so interesting game, a very strong game from Lech, but also maiquelPS built his economy quite nicely and finished at a very solid second position. And yeah, maybe if I would have seeded the impact of industry instead, I could have had some chances to at least finish at the third position. Maybe I should have played rather towards that for the league standings. Finishing third or second didn't make a big difference. Maybe I should have just fired a blunder against Lech and see what happens, but when we take a look at what big lead he has, that also wouldn't have changed anything, even if he can't finish the wonder. So I think it was fine to just play for a better placement, which at least will maybe potentially help me with better clicker rating. Alright, and with this game finished, we can now maybe take a quick look at the final standings. And as you can see, with that win, and with me sadly only finishing at a shared fourth position, Lech is now in the lead, able to win this group with a very impressive amount of 30 points. He played a very strong season, won 3 out of the 4 4-player games, finished second in the order, and also in the 3-player game he had a very solid performance, didn't lose a single game, scoring 30 points. No, just a very strong performance. I also had a solid performance. The last 2 4-player games sadly didn't go that great. That one was quite close, finishing closely behind maiquelPS and X-Term. If I would have won this one, I would have moved on regardless of the outcome of this game. But sadly I finished third, and then in this game, my position was just not good enough to compete against Lech and maiquelPS. And so despite having played a solid season, it's not enough, with Lech also pulling out some really strong results, showing that he is definitely a very strong player, as he already has shown in the Intermezzo Championship season in Master at the beginning of the year. And then also the other players, X-Term, discodancer, maiquelPS, also scored a solid amount of points, while for Restless Mean Doobie the season didn't go that great. So sadly, I will stay another season in Platinum. At least very likely, there's a hope that I can have, and that is that I'm, out of the 4 Platinum leagues, I'm the best second place. And if one of the Grandmaster or Master players should decide to not play in the next season, I would get promoted as the best second place. So there is a chance that I might still play in Master in the next season. Ideally, I would like that all of the top players stay there. So I, on one hand, would be happy, but also unhappy. So I'm fine with either outcome. Of course, ideally, I would have just won the group and gone to the master, but now I might have to play another season in platinum. Yeah, so congratulations to Lech again for a very strong performance. And now that we are just at this results page, we can maybe also take a very quick look at how the Grandmaster League finished this season. So let's see, it takes a little bit until it is loading. And as you can see in the Grandmaster League, we have an old veteran who was able to now win a season again of the International Championship, and this is Cengiz, who decided to join again. He also took a break for some seasons, didn't play regularly, but now he joined again and actually managed to win his league with 26 points, a very strong performance by him, and now adding another title to his to the titles that he already won. I think he has now a total of 3 international championship seasons won, definitely being one of the top players. But then we also have MWI, who I think played for the first time the Grandmaster Division with a very strong debut season, finishing at the 2nd position, already being a title contender. Lambda, who you maybe know from the 10-headed Hydra project, is at the 3rd position. Then Funestus, who you know from the Intermezzo Championship season, that and also from the 10-headed Hydra project, is at the 4th position. PV4 managed to stay in the league very closely before Ipogi, and then Saru finishing in the last position. Alright, so interesting to see how that finished. And yeah, with that I think we are at the end of the video. The next videos that you can expect are from the Intermezzo Championship, where I'm playing the Grandmaster Division. Maybe it will take still a little while until the games will finish. Maybe I will use the time and show one other tournament game. I have to see if I find the time. The next it will be a little bit busy and 1 week on holidays, but let's see, maybe I find the time, and if not, then the next videos that you can expect are from the Intermezzo Championship that I plan to cover fully. Alright, then thank you for watching and have a nice time, and see you in the next video.